The Pocket Watch by LeBron Keener. The clockmaker's shop was a relic of a bygone era, nestled between a cafe and a boutique. Inside, the air was filled with the rhythmic ticking and chiming of timepieces, each telling a story of its own. Oscar, the sole proprietor, was a man of patience and precision, meticulously tending to every clock, whether antique or modern. Despite the modern world's shift toward digital convenience, his small shop attracted a handful of loyal customers. They came not just for repairs, but for the charm of a place where time seemed to slow down. The scent of polished wood and metal mingled with the sound of gears turning, creating a sanctuary from the rush of everyday life. Oscar found joy in his craft, restoring a grandfather clock or fine-tuning a delicate wristwatch. He was an Irish immigrant and learned the trade from his father, who had been an apprentice to Oscar's grandfather. For generations, clockmaking had been the main source of income in his family, and for him, each tick marked a connection to the past, a reminder that time, though fleeting, could be cherished in its most tangible forms. Oscar was an old man, a lover of nostalgia, who longed for a much simpler time. His silver hair and weathered hands spoke of years spent in the company of clocks, each one a piece of history he had lovingly preserved. He often reminisced about the days when people gathered around their mantelpieces to share stories, their laughter harmonizing with the soft chimes of a well-kept clock. The shop was his refuge, filled with the comforting sounds of ticking and the gentle patter of rain against the window. Oscar cherished the small rituals of winding and tuning, finding solace in the precision of his work. Each clock represented a moment frozen in time, a connection to memories that lingered like the aroma of fresh wood shavings. Though the world outside rushed forward, Oscar remained anchored in his beloved past, surrounded by the ticking heartbeat of his cherished clocks. But the fact remained that Oscar was getting old. Each day, the weight of time felt heavier on his shoulders. His joints ached after long hours spent bent over intricate mechanisms, and the once steady hands began to tremble slightly as he worked. He often found himself pausing, staring at the clocks that surrounded him as if searching for reassurance in their relentless ticking. He worried about the future of his shop, knowing that fewer people appreciated the artistry of clockmaking. The thought of closing the doors brought a pang of sadness, yet he clung to the hope that someone would step in to carry on his legacy. As he adjusted the hands of a vintage wall clock, he whispered to it like an old friend, vowing to keep the spirit of time alive as long as he could. The once profitable shop barely stayed in the green as of late, but clockmaking was just as much a part of Oscar's makeup as his body itself. Closing it was not an option for the old man. It was his identity, his passion, and his refuge. Each clock he repaired felt like a lifeline, a reminder that he still had something to contribute to the world. Oscar refused to let the shop fade away. He even tried hosting small workshops, inviting locals to learn the art of clockmaking, but no one ever attended, which saddened the old man deeply. Though his days grew shorter and the weight of his years pressed upon him, Oscar's determination only deepened. He poured his heart into every tick, each chime a testament to his resilience, ensuring that the heart of the shop continued to beat. One day, The bell above the door rang. A young boy had come into the shop. He was holding a pocket watch in his hand. He approached the counter. The pocket watch was shiny and golden, with a very intricate design. He placed it gently on the counter, as if it were a precious treasure. "Would you be interested in this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Oscar put down the clock he had been working on and examined the watch closely. "It's a beautiful piece. Where did you get it?" "It belonged to my grandfather." Intrigued, the shopkeeper smiled. "Your grandfather, eh? Let me see what you have here." He began to work, carefully opening the watch, revealing the delicate inner mechanisms. As he tinkered, the boy watched closely. Oscar's hands shook with age as he examined the pocket watch, its intricate engravings glinting in the soft light. Memories flooded back with each tick, a reminder of a time when he was young and full of dreams. The watch, its rhythmic heartbeat, seemed like a connection to the past. He closed the back of the watch and flipped open the front cover. The delicate hands moved forward with great ease. "How much do you—" Oscar began to ask the young boy. He looked up. The boy was gone. "Want?" He must have left the shop while Oscar was examining the pocket watch. A fleeting sense of disappointment washed over him. The boy had been eager to sell the watch, his eyes sparkling with hope. Oscar sighed and looked at the watch in his hand. He couldn't shake the feeling that the boy had been more than just a simple trader, perhaps a reminder of his own youth, of aspirations long forgotten. He imagined the young boy taking the money he would have paid him and going to the chocolate shop around the corner, splurging on sugary treats for himself. But what if he needed the money for a more important reason? Oscar felt a chill of empathy arise in him for the boy. The shop felt empty all of a sudden, shadows creeping in as the afternoon light waned. Still, Oscar wondered why the little boy had left without taking his grandfather's pocket watch. Suddenly, he noticed something wrong with the watch. "Why, it's running backwards," said Oscar, talking to himself. The hand on the pocket watch was moving counterclockwise around the face, a surreal sight that sent a chill through him. He flipped it over, searching for a hidden mechanism or a sign of damage, but everything seemed intact. As the second hand continued its reverse journey, the minute hand ensued slowly after, obviously awaiting the hour hand to awaken with a backward saunter. Very odd indeed. Oscar turned the open sign to closed and began to tidy up the shop, the familiar creaks of the floorboards echoing in the stillness. As he placed the strange watch in his pocket, he couldn't shake the sense of urgency it inspired. The fading daylight cast long shadows, and he hurriedly gathered his things, eager to examine the peculiar timepiece in the comfort of his humble little home by the river. Once outside, the evening air wrapped around him like a coat of invigorating coolness. The street was quiet, save for the distant sounds of a bustling city winding down. As he walked toward the river, he felt the weight of the watch pressing against his leg, almost as if it were alive. Once he got home, he removed his coat and went straight to the table, sitting down with a sense of purpose. With the watch in hand, he examined it, rolling it over and over, tracing the delicate engravings with his fingertips. The counterclockwise motion of the hands continued to fascinate him. Leaning closer, he squinted at the tiny details and noticed an inscription on the inside cover, but it was too small to read. He put his magnifier over his eye and looked again. "When time exists, likewise does mortality," said Oscar, reading the inscription. "Profound," said Oscar, taking the magnifier away from his eye. As he stared at the watch, he noticed something odd, a faint orange glow emanating from the watch's face. Heart racing, he held it up to the light, and the hands began to spin faster, swirling in a dizzy dance with one another on the glowing face of the pocket watch. It was as if the old watch was trying to tell him something, and in that moment, Oscar felt an overwhelming urge to uncover its mysteries. It was late, though, and Oscar was beginning to yawn. The day had worn him out, and despite the watch's allure, he knew he needed rest. He got up, placed the watch back into his pocket, and shuffled to the bedroom. After changing into his flannel nightgown, he carefully placed the watch on the nightstand and got into bed. As he lay still, he closed his eyes, but the image of the watch's hands spinning counterclockwise lingered in his mind. He drifted into a restless sleep, dreams swirling with memories and echoes of the past. As he snored, the closed pocket watch was glowing beneath the gold lid and spinning backward more rapidly than before. Oscar awakened the following morning feeling refreshed. He stretched his arms over his head and got out of bed, stepping onto the cool floor, savoring the lingering calm of the morning. The sun streamed through the window, casting bright patterns on the wall. He went into the bathroom to get himself ready for the day. Yawning, he looked in the mirror and noticed his thin white hair was now bushy and dark brown. Surprised, he leaned closer, running his fingers through the thick locks. He was startled, hardly recognizing the handsome young man staring back at him. Tracing the contours of his face, he noted the smoothness and vitality that hadn't been there the day before. The deep lines of age were gone, replaced by a youthful glow. Still looking at himself in the mirror, he remembered the pocket watch. "When time exists, likewise does mortality," he said to himself, recalling the inscription inside the watch lid. "So without time, we are immortal," he added, as he pondered what was happening. "And if time goes backward, we can be young again." Oscar was excited. The impossibility of growing younger had never been something he had thought about, but the realization in the mirror caused him to dance and jump around in the little house, something his old body had long since kept him from doing. With each leap and twirl, he felt a surge of energy that he hadn't experienced in years. Laughter bubbled up as he spun around. The little house echoed with his joy, and for the first time in ages, he felt completely free of his ailments. He paused to catch his breath, returning to the mirror and grinning at himself with teeth as white as pearls, encircled by the much younger, handsome version of himself. The vibrant hair, youthful skin, and newfound vitality filled him with hope. Today he would rediscover himself, and he was determined to run all the way to the clock shop. Energized, he showered, got dressed, grabbed the pocket watch, and headed outside, ready to embrace a new life as a youthful man. Oscar noticed his pace was substantially quicker as he walked to the shop. No shortness of breath or soreness hindered his movements. With each step, he felt a lightness in his body, a sense of energy that had been absent for some time. It was as if he was gliding rather than walking, each footfall rhythmic and assured. As he approached the shop, he couldn't help but smile at the unexpected vigor that filled him. The same people he passed on the street every day, who had seemed young before, all appeared older to him now. Lines etched deeper in their faces, and their movements appeared slower, burdened by unseen weights of the aging process. He knew they were all the same as they had been before, but with his new youthfulness, the comparison became stark. It was as if his newfound youthfulness had granted him a new perspective, making him acutely aware of the passage of time and its effects on everyone he passed. When he reached the clock shop, he saw his reflection in the window at the door. He looked to be in his 30s, vibrant and full of life. The image staring back at him was a stark contrast to how he felt the day before. His hair shined, and his eyes sparkled with a youthful energy he thought he had lost. Time had reversed his age, but a thought occurred to him. How far back would he go? Would he become an infant again, helpless and in need of his mother's care? The idea sent a shiver down his spine. While he reveled in his renewed vitality, the notion of regressing to a stage of dependency felt unsettling. He imagined the confusion of returning to a time when he couldn't articulate his thoughts or navigate the world independently. Would he have to wear baby diapers again? The thought made him chuckle nervously as he realized that he had gotten much older. He would have more than likely had to wear their adult counterparts anyway. It all underscored the absurdity of the situation. Oscar unlocked the door and walked inside the shop, hearing the chime of the bell overhead. The familiar scent of freshly cut wood greeted him, a comforting reminder that the shop was exactly how he had left it. The many rows of clocks lining the walls, each ticking steadily, their rhythmic sounds echoing in the quiet shop. He felt a sense of belonging amidst them. After taking off his coat, he turned on the lights and flipped the closed sign to open. Putting on his work apron, he stood behind the counter and pulled from his pocket the old watch. Opening it, he saw that it was still running backwards. 9:15, 9:14, 9:13, 9:12. Oscar wondered if he was doomed to turn back into a fetus, to go wherever yet-to-be-born babies come from. The thought made his stomach churn. He recalled the complexities of the reproductive process, embryos, eggs, and sperm. "Sperm?" he said, looking up from horrified thoughts. "No." Oscar's eyes were wide with astonishment as he thought about where he might end up if the reversal of age didn't come to a halt. 8:52, 8:51, 8:50, 8:49. The bell over the door broke his concentration. An old man shuffled inside, leaning heavily on a walking cane. His movements slow and shaky. His face was weathered with lines from years of living, a stark contrast to Oscar's new youthful vitality. The old man glanced around the shop as if the many ticking clocks held memories for him. Oscar felt a wave of empathy wash over him, recognizing the fragility of the man's age. He asked if he could be of help. "Did a young boy bring a pocket watch in here today?" asked the old man. Oscar felt a cold chill on the back of his neck, as if the winds of time were blowing against him. Hesitantly, Oscar honestly replied, Yes, sir. He held up the old timepiece by the chain. He ran out before I had a chance to give it back to him. He asked me if I was interested in it. I wondered where he ran off to. Why, that little heathen, said the old man, hitting his cane on the floor. He knows better than that. When I get a hold of him. I suppose you want it back, sir, said Oscar. Look here, son. That watch was given to you, and even though he knew better than to give it away, it wouldn't be right for me to take it back now, the old man explained. That would be wrong of me. Oscar thought about the watch he was holding. His hands were the hands of a young man, steady and unshaking. He could work on the tiny mechanisms in his clocks with ease now, and the youthfulness he saw in his face moments before was just right to appeal to the young ladies again. How could he need anything more? No, Oscar said, looking up to the old man. You take it back, and please, go easy on your grandson. I'm sure he meant no harm. Grandson, said the old man, furrowing his brow. He isn't my grandson. He's my grandfather. Oscar and the old man stared at one another for a short time with looks of confusion and bewilderment. Your grandfather, echoed Oscar, glancing at the watch still dangling from the chain in his hand. But how is that possible? Oscar opened the watch and stared at the face of it in deep thought, the hands still moving backward rapidly as he became entranced by its orange glow. The young boy must have been having the same identical thoughts about regressing beyond childbirth. That's why he brought the watch to him. That had to be why. When time exists, likewise does mortality, he said, remembering the inscription inside the lid. He continued to look at the golden pocket watch in his hand. Sir, are you okay? Oscar looked up from his thoughts. I asked you if you might be interested in this pocket watch. It was the young boy, slightly agitated as he waited for a response. Oscar looked at his hands. They were weathered with age and very unsteady. Oscar had been daydreaming. He looked back down at the face of the watch. It was running clockwise and at a regular speed. Oh, I'm sorry, lad, he said, giving the pocket watch back to the boy. No, I don't think so. Maybe you should save it and give it to your grandson someday, eh, me lad? Disappointed, the boy put the timepiece in his pocket. Oscar watched as he walked out of the shop and disappeared. He smiled and continued working as the clocks around him chimed together in harmony, keeping perfect time.